Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this morning. It's really a treat to have Miss Jackie Fernandez, the self-proclaimed karaoke master, here today. So a little bit of background. Jackie was born in New York, and she was raised in LA. While she attended Hunter College, she actually was an active journalist and covered the Democratic National Convention for New American Media. Throughout college, she was working, attending full-time, as well as interning at CNN, New York 1, and Anderson Cooper 360. Eventually, she graduated and worked as an entertainment and movie reviewer for ABC World News Now. She has earned an Emmy for community service for her work as a co-host of the Good Morning Show in Greensboro, North Carolina for 3 years. And also, she runs her own blog, and she is here today from News Channel 5 WEWS, and she, as Dr. Horowitz mentioned, is an anchor for Good Morning Cleveland. And so without further ado, I present to you Jackie Fernandez.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi everyone, how are you guys doing today? Everyone good? I am really excited to be here with you guys today. I wanted to talk to you guys about the newsroom realities and diversity. So you see this word a lot, diversity, right? You hear it all the time, you see it, people talk about it in conversations, but you often wonder, what does this word really mean? When I was in college, I knew I wanted to be a journalist. I just didn't know what kind. So I actually started interning in public relations because that was the only internship I could get. And so I pivoted from that to online journalism, then print, and eventually found my way to TV. On my block, my neighbors were German, Irish, Polish, African American, Chinese, Filipino, and that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. Being raised in that kind of city meant that being Chinese, being Filipino, did not mean that I was different. And then I went to school in New York City, as you heard Liz say. I went to school there at Hunter College, which is a city university, just like Cleveland State, and I went to school there. New York City is supposed to be the melting pot of America. It is known for being this place where diversity is praised. We have Ellis Island. We have the Statue of Liberty, right? And these are famous landmarks that represent the American dream. So much diversity. When you're in New York City, that place is supposed to be the most diverse place in America. And yet, it wasn't until I was in a newsroom in New York City that I felt like a minority. And that's really the truth. So it was 2008 at the time. I was an intern, 2008. And I go into this editorial meeting. So an editorial meeting is something that you have every day. Every news show has it, where the entire staff, from the executive producers to the anchors to the reporters to the producers, they all get together, sort of like what we're doing right now, and they discuss what's going to be on the show that day. You have people pitching stories, you have people pitching expert guests who should be on the show. Then you have the bosses asking, well, how are you going to tell that story? Which angle are you going to tell it from? Is it from the heartbroken mother? Is it from the triumphant student? Or maybe it is from the embattled politico. Each story has to be told from a certain kind of view, right? So I start thinking, I don't know if I agree with all of this story selection. I don't know if I agree with the way that you are choosing to tell these stories, because I'm not sure if it represents so many different views from which I have grown up with. So I'm an intern, right? An intern is the lowest person on the totem pole in the news hierarchy, in the news bureaucracy. So I start thinking, oh my gosh, this is my chance. I'm going to pitch something right now. I start panicking. I start feeling sick in my stomach. You know, when you're in a room like this and you have all the bosses there and you think, this is my chance. I'm going to shine right now. I'm going to wow them with this different point of view. So just like a movie, my eyes start darting around and I start thinking, okay, which bosses are here that I'm just going to freaking wow with this pitch? And I start looking around, and just like that movie that I said, I start to notice each boss is white. And I think, that can't be right. Where are the other people that look like me in this room? And I start looking around. And I go, oh my gosh, there is nobody else here that is a person of color. And I start thinking, there is no way that the only person of color in this newsroom that is a nationally televised newscast that the only person of color is me, the intern. And I'm like, wow, no, it is true. So I was mad, I was confused. I'm like, we're in New York City. This is a show that's supposed to represent the entire country. All the different voices that make up the United States of America are supposed to be represented in the shows that you see nationally. And yet, those voices are not in the room. So at that moment, I knew what it felt like to be a minority, to be outnumbered, to feel silenced, to feel small, to feel different. And at 19 years old, I knew that my voice was not only vital to a newsroom, but it had to be louder than to news that they could get in other places. They were so appreciative. They had not heard this before. And because of that, in that semester, I became the most trusted and the most utilized intern. And that is the power that each and every one of you have. So when I was sitting where you guys are sitting today, I thought, I really want to be a journalist. I just don't know how. And when we're talking about feeling like a minority, that is more than just race, okay? It is not just about race, being a minority. It is about class, sexuality, gender, political affiliation, and religion. So each and every one of you, you provide a different narrative, a unique perspective. The experiences that you've had coming up to this point, you are in school, you are learning, you are from Cleveland, you are from the Midwest. All of those experiences are different from the ones that I've had. And when you enter a newsroom, you bring all of that with you. And with that, you change the story. So I remember being at Hunter College, New York City, thinking, oh my gosh, I want to be a journalist. How am I going to do this? How am I going to get there? Yada, yada, yada. There were so many other obstacles that I was thinking, right? Got to ace this class. Got to get that paper done. I didn't even realize that in journalism, I didn't realize what this word meant, newsroom diversity. I did not know, they don't teach you this in school, okay? So I'm going to teach it to you right now. I did not know that newsrooms are predominantly white. I did not know that the people who hold the positions of power, the presidents of network TV, the general managers of all the local TV stations, I did not know they are white. I did not know that being a woman and a person of color put me at a statistical disadvantage. I did not know that there were a different set of rules. But I know now, and you will too. So let's talk about these different numbers. Alrighty, so that's what I said, right? The national presidents of national TV networks, so I'm talking your ABC, your CBS, your NBC, your Fox, what you see in New York City, to Los Angeles, to here in Ohio, the presidents of those networks, and also the presidents and general managers of all the local stations here, so that would be like mine, Channel 5, 90% of them are white, and 82% of them are men. So that means currently, the people who hold these positions of power tend to be majority white. So you might be asking, where are the minorities at? Well, in TV, minority journalists make up about 22% of the TV workforce. So television journalists, about 22% are minority. In radio and newspapers, it's about 13%. So if you see these numbers, you might think, well, that's not so bad, right? Those are kind of high. At least it's not like 2% or 5%. But then, minorities, we make up 37% of the U.S. population. So the representation in radio and newspapers is more than less than half, which is really crazy. So how far have we come here? Because, newsrooms, they have made a concerted effort to increase minority hires. I see it all the time in every newsroom I've been in. We want to hire different voices. We want to hire different types of people. So in 1990, the minority TV workforce was about 18%, but the population of minorities in the country, about 26. So 1990, none of you guys were probably even born yet, right? Who was born here in 1990? Okay. Yes, this was 26 years ago. So, I know. At first I thought this was 16 years ago, and I'm like, no, this is 26 years ago. So, cut to 2013, so about 3 years ago. The minority population in our country has grown by about 10%. And yet, the representation of the people on TV who are supposed to represent this growing population only grew by less than 4%. So these people who are in this country wanting to see themselves on TV aren't really getting to see it because those people are not in the newsroom. You feel me? Yes. Okay. So you think, do minorities want to be in journalism? Yeah, I see them here. They do. From 2004 to 2013, 21% of all journalism graduates were minorities. They want to be in these newsrooms. They want to have a voice on your TV, on your screens, on your mobile devices. They want to be there, but it's harder for them to get a job. Alex Williams, he worked on this study. He looked at 82 different schools. And when you read these facts, you're going to know why it's harder for them to get a job. So, minority graduates compared to their white classmates, they are 17% less likely to get a job in television than their white classmates. 2% less likely in advertising, and it's really bad in PR, less than 25% less likely than their white classmates. And you might wonder, why is that? These are kind of extreme numbers, right? 3 reasons why. 3 reasons why minority students have a more difficult time getting jobs after they graduate. Number 1, minority students are not focusing on networking when they are in college. A big part of getting a job in this news industry is forming relationships. So minority students, they tend to maybe enter a newsroom, right? And they're so focused on working hard or completing tasks that they don't realize that one of the tasks that they must achieve, one that is not written, is to form relationships with superiors, create mentors. That is something you have to do because it is not who you know in this business, it's who knows you. Number 2, minority students tend to not have the resources or the financial support to complete these unpaid internships. Believe me, I know that is so hard, but unpaid internships are really the key to making your resume look good. And when you don't have them, it really puts you at a disadvantage. So minority students, they face this challenge. Number 3, minority students, they often go to schools that do not have a school newspaper or a fancy broadcast center. So I'll tell you, I went to a school that did not have one of those fancy broadcast centers where you can dress up like an anchor and you could read from the prompter and you get to be a producer. I didn't have that. I had to go form an internship to get that experience. My school did have a newspaper, but I did not write for that. Instead, I pitched myself and wrote for free to online news journalism outlets to get some credits or some stats on my resume, which then made me look as a desirable candidate to internships. And I get this second part. Working an unpaid internship is the worst. You work for free, you're working so many hours, but when I was in undergrad, I worked 16 to 27 hours a week for free, and I did not have the support from my family. So I had to work as a cocktail waitress on the weekends to sort of support myself. But these are the challenges that you're going to face if you want to break into this business. And believe me, it is tough when you don't have the emotional support or the financial support, but you can do it. You can truly do it. To make it into this business, the journalism business, whether you want to be on TV, you want to be a writer, you want to be in print, you want to be in PR, you want to be in advertising, it takes a certain kind of moxie, a certain kind of stubborn determination in the face of people telling you, no, 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 you can't do this, and you say, yes, I can, I believe in myself, even when it's your parents telling you, just give up on that career, and you fight to say, yes, I know that you can do it. Growing up, my parents, they came here from the Philippines, you know. They came here as immigrants when they were in their 20s, our age, cumulative age. So they came here with only a few dollars to their name, so they didn't want their children to work in a career that was so unstable, which is the journalism field. So my mom told me, Jackie, I don't want you to do this because it's a dead career. She'd print me out articles. And I said, no, Mom. She's like, this is not going to work for you. And so she goes, I want you to do something more stable, more secure, where you're always going to have money coming in. But I didn't listen to her, and I found a way. And I know that if you guys really want to be in this industry, that you can do that too. So let me just find my place. Oh, yes. Okay. Good morning, Cleveland. This is a highly visible job. So I anchor the morning show Monday through Friday, 4:30 to 7 a.m. And when people watch the show and they see me on this show, the first thing they see is an Asian person. And then the next thing they see is a woman. And then they see my last name, Fernandez, and they start asking me questions like, what are you? Where are you from? Why is that your last name? Why do you have a last name like that? I'm not kidding. I have gotten these kind of questions my whole career. Literally, voicemails, messages, emails, Facebook comments, asking me this stuff. And I answer it every single time. The conversation usually goes like this. Where are you from? Oh, Los Angeles. Where are you really from? And I'm like, oh, the San Fernando Valley, the suburbs of LA. No. Where are you, like, really, really from? And I go, are you trying to ask me, like, what my race is? And they go, yes. So I usually say Chinese, Filipino, China, Pina. Try to add some levity there because it's an awkward conversation. And I answer about my last name every single time because it's a history lesson in less than 10 seconds. So they go, why do you got a funky last name like that? Are you a Mexican? And I say, I've gotten that voicemail before. And I say, no, my last name is Fernandez because the Spaniards conquered the Philippines, so Filipinos tend to have Hispanic last names. Boom, knowledge. You know what I mean? And producers. So I know no one raised their hand that they want to be a producer. That's unfortunate. They are amazing. They help the show so much. They are vital to any newscast. But producers, great producers, they write conversationally. And that means writing the way that you and I would talk. So this producer, she is so sweet. She's writing a story about sleep deprivation. And she asked me, she has my co-anchor say to me, scripted, Jackie, when you finally get a good night's sleep, is this what you look like? And I see, oh, there's a picture there. I wonder what kind of picture that could be. Where'd she get a picture of me sleeping? That's kind of creepy, but maybe it's cute. I don't know, right? So I am thankfully reading this before the show. And if you want to be an anchor, who here wants to be an anchor? Oh, okay. I see a few of you. Awesome. So if you want to be on TV as an anchor, you should always read your scripts before you go on set because you don't want to read the words straight from the prompter cold. We call that reading cold. Because then you become like Ron Burgundy. Remember Ron Burgundy? I am Ron Burgundy. You don't want that to happen to you. And it will happen when you don't review your scripts. So I always review my scripts. And I'm reading this and I'm thinking, what could this be? This is a cool picture. She took a lot of extra time to find this picture, make a graphic for this picture. So the picture she put to the response for the question that my co-anchor was going to ask me on air, Jackie, is this what you look like when you finally get a good night's sleep? Is this. A baby panda sleeping in a tree. Yeah, this was going to be on TV with my co-anchor asking me if that's what I look like when I finally go to sleep. You see this? So when you see an image like this, you're probably thinking, I don't know what you're thinking, but I know what I was thinking. I was thinking, oh my gosh, are you serious? I was outraged. I deleted it, I rewrote it, and I thought, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? But I knew that I could not talk to that producer in that moment because I would talk to her out of anger. And this moment had to be a learning one for her. Because Asian people are not Asian pandas that sleep in trees, okay? We are not. We are not. You do not racialize people in that way. For her to racialize me in that way on TV was not only inappropriate, it was extremely, extremely offensive. But she didn't know that. She wasn't a racist. She just didn't know that was racially insensitive. When I spoke to her, she just said, "Oh my gosh, Jackie, I just thought that panda was so cute." And I went, "But there's a reason why you picked that panda, okay? There's a reason why you picked it. You didn't just pick it out of the blue to describe me." You know, so I had to explain that to her. We had a great conversation, and from there, I was able to educate and open the mind of one person. I could have gone this way, or I could have gone this way. I could have ignored it and been angry and resentful, or I could have had this awkward conversation with her and helped change the future, because nobody wants to have a talk like this. Nobody wants to explain why this is offensive. But if I didn't do that, she would have gone on and built more newscasts for that community to inform that community that could have had racially insensitive images like this, and she wouldn't have even known if I did not talk to her. But since I did, she probably is less likely to do that. So like I said, minorities, it's more than just being a race. It's more than just race. It's about your gender, your sexuality, your religious affiliation, your political affiliation, your class. And it is unfair, but we are representatives of those perspectives when we go into a newsroom. It is a responsibility we have to bear. And it's not fair at all, but we do not live in a society yet where we all have the privilege to just be representatives of ourselves. And that is why I am so glad that you are all here today, listening, absorbing, just becoming aware of the reality that is the newsroom circa 2016, so that when you guys enter the newsroom, it can be changed for the better. Let's see. Okay. So Typhoon Haiyan. This was one of the most devastating typhoons to ever hit the Philippines. It killed more than 6,000 people. This happened about a few years ago. It was tragic. When I saw these images on the screen, I was so hurt by them. I was so moved by them. When I saw these faces, I saw myself. And if I felt that way as an American-born Filipino, I knew other people would feel that way too. And I knew that this was bigger than being a Filipino issue. I knew that other people would respond to this tragedy. So I went to that same newsroom in which I had the panda incident, and I asked my general manager, I said, I want to have a fundraiser of some type for the Typhoon Haiyan. How do I do that? And from there, we were able to have an all-day telethon. So these are some of the images of Typhoon Haiyan. So when I went to the boss, I was like, how can we do something to raise money? And he suggested to me, let's have an all-day telethon. So from 6 a.m. in the morning until 11 p.m. at night, we had a telethon where people could call in and donate money. And since this was my idea, it was my responsibility to, first of all, fill all these seats with volunteers, and then find all the stories and the people of interest to create some sort of interest from the community to donate money. This was one of the greatest things I've ever done in my career. I was able to mobilize this very small Filipino community in Greensboro, North Carolina, to come here at this news station. I found so many different stories of interest, people who had ties to the Philippines, and I connected them to all the reporters and the anchors, and from there they were able to tell these stories to on so many different platforms. This kind of story, an international story, would probably get maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute if I'm being very generous, in a city like Greensboro, North Carolina. Because this is halfway around the world in the Philippines, right? So this story, let's say 30 seconds, because of one voice, one inquiry, this was able to expand to nearly 20 hours of coverage. So many people had the opportunity to share their stories, their struggle, their heartbreak. And because of that, that humanized a community, that introduced a community and their concerns and their heartbreak to the larger masses. And those people, the majority, they felt impacted by this. They felt a call to change what was going on here. And we raised more than $42,000 for the folks in the Philippines via the American Red Cross. And all of that happened because of one voice. And I often ask myself, what would have happened if that voice wasn't in the newsroom? Who would have driven all of those efforts there? Who would have spoken up for these people? Who would have taken the time to go into these communities and connect them to other people to give them such a huge platform to share those stories? Who would have told those stories? If it wasn't for me, I don't think those stories would have honestly been told in that community. They probably wouldn't have. So that's when I want you guys to think about your own lives. Think about your own experiences. Think about what you see every day. What are you not seeing on the news? When you watch TV, what are you not seeing on there? When you go through your Twitter feed, your Facebook feed, what stories aren't popping up that you wish were there? When you go on BuzzFeed, when you read the newspaper, I don't know if you guys do that, hopefully you do. But if you go and you see those stories and you think, they're not telling this side of the story. They're not sharing what I would think is important. You can be that change. You can be the one to go into that newsroom and pitch that idea, change the narrative, change the story. What do you care about enough to stick your neck out and drive change? Honestly, if there's one thing I hope you leave with as you continue to progress in your journalism careers, I want you guys to ask yourself, like, honestly, what do you really care about enough to be that person who speaks up for everybody else? So I've been in Cleveland for about a year now, and it has truly been wonderful. It's been fantastic. I'm so thankful that we've had a very mild winter. Thank you, Samara. So when people ask me, oh my gosh, why did you move here? You're from LA. Why did you move here? I say, I moved here for work. And without skipping a beat, their answer is usually, oh, you're a nurse. Without question, without a hesitation, I go, I moved here for work. They go, nurse, Cleveland Clinic? And I go, oh no, I'm actually a news reporter. I'm a news anchor. And then they say, whoa, they are shocked, they are surprised, they are in utter disbelief. And that is why I continue to really do what I do here, not only to be a voice for the folks that I represent in the newsroom, to check each story to make sure that it is not being racially insensitive, to pitch stories for people who do not have a voice in the room. Not only is that why I do it, but I do it to also break the mold, you know, to open people's eyes to different ideas. So my hope is that when you guys get asked, what do you do? The answer won't be based on what you look like, but rather the answer will be that you can be anything. I'm Jackie Fernandez. Thank you so much for your time.